Welcome to the Agent from Within podcast, the only podcast that's here to develop the real estate agent as a human being, to help you get out of your own way, to actually align yourself to what you really want in your life and then build a real estate business around that. We have to focus on the person behind the strategies. Yes, this is going to be filled with tactics, business advice, amazing interviews. But if you're not in the right place mentally and emotionally, you will self-sabotage your business. You will chase, you will compare. This is about creating the best race car driver, not just the best race car. Any race car driver can jump into any car and win the race. We need to develop you as a human being. This is the only place that real estate agents can actually focus on growing yourself and growing your business. Cheers. Hey guys, this is Ben Osterveld here from Within the podcast, where we talk about the behind the scenes on life. This is a catalyst for business, catalyst for relationships, catalyst for your life. It's a thing that kind of sparks you, makes you think. We've got a really cool show on today. It's 4 real estate agents that I've personally known for a few years. In some cases have worked directly in their life, I guess in all cases here. We are here to talk about how personal growth is actually affecting business and how that's affected their lives. And it's a conversation that we don't really see in real estate. In real estate, we're usually talking about, you know, like the ego, the image, what's the best way to get a lead. And it's always like this, you know, even the awards are celebrating the commissions you make. It's never talking about building a life. They might mention it because it sounds good, but at the end of the day, there's 50% divorce rate in this business. There's people that are burnt out. And I think this dream about driving hot cars and living a life you want as a real estate agent, I think if you look deeper, I'm not sure if it's there, because the people that I work with, it always goes down to are we really building a life we want, and what do we need to do? So this is the conversations that we have. So I'm going to go around the room, which is the Zoom room. I'm going to introduce, we've got Colin Clowater, Justin McClintock, right?
Yeah.
Love that name. It's like, if I had to choose a name, it'd be McClintock. You got Jenn Bashow and Mary Robertson. Why don't we go around the room, introduce yourself, how long you've been an agent, what's a snapshot of your life? Colin.
Me first? Okay. I'm Colin Clowater. I'm out of Sherwood Park, Alberta. I've been in real estate for 7 years now. I've actually been on Team Osterveld for 2 years as of, I think, last week. My life basically consists of a 27-year-old coaching hockey, volunteering there, spend a lot of time traveling, get to do a lot of cool experiences with my friends around the world. So probably spend about a month and a half out of the year traveling to different countries. And yeah, really just every year, the last 4 years is getting incrementally better and better and better with my real estate business, money-wise and personal growth-wise. So it's been good.
Beautiful. So who's following that one? Traveling the world, you know? Jen, next.
Sure. Yeah, I've been an agent for just over 3 years, but I've been in real estate for about 15. My husband and I own a bunch of rental properties and self-manage. We have 2 kids, a 4-year-old and a 10-year-old. My husband works out of town, so I'm doing the mom juggle with all of it, and we live on an acreage. So
very cool. Very cool. I love this. Mary.
I'm Mary. I've been in real estate for 7 years. I have a 7-year-old and an 8-month-old. And I guess what our life looks like is I get to spend a lot of time with my kids. I get to work as much as I want to work and spend as much time as that I want with my kids. And we do a lot of traveling as well. I also get to spend a lot of time with my partner, which is awesome as well.
Very cool. And how long did you say how long you were an agent before?
Yeah, 7 years.
Oh yeah, I missed that. Justin, let's hear it.
Yeah, my name's Justin. I'm from the Caledon, Ontario area, just north of Toronto. I've been a licensed agent for probably 5, 6, 7, going on 7 years now, but really I just finished, last year was my first year full-time in the business. So it's my second year full-time. Kind of got started in real estate with a bit of investment property stuff. So just kind of looking to continue building my life through real estate.
So what are you doing for fun, Justin?
I do all kinds of things for fun. I play sports. I play hockey, baseball, anything outdoors really kind of, I've got a husky, so that keeps me busy outside, biking, kayaking, all kinds of stuff like that.
Single,
So,
girlfriend,
single.
single.
Yes.
There you go, ladies. Okay, so that was totally old man stuff right there. You see that? Like old man trying to be cool. I'm hitting that age. It's weird. Anyways, okay, cool. Let's. Why are you laughing? Is that at me or with me? Anyways, let's
with
on.
you, with you.
Yeah, right. Okay, so guys, I just want to say, I just want to ask a couple questions here. Let's just get right into this, okay? Every single one of you guys have relationships. Everyone has relationships that affect business. I really think this conversation about working on our inner world and our relationships, how it directly affects business. I know personally, when I was wrestling with my marriage with my wife, like my business felt it. Like when I was sitting there wondering about like, should I divorce? And I went through this process. I'm just giving an extreme example is that the business gets deadly affected. My energy was different. Everything was different. I wasn't happy. And it turned out to be a real grind. I started getting anxiety. I started getting depressed. And it started from my home. It started from my inner world and the relationship with myself, the relationship with my wife became the priority. And as I fixed that, all of a sudden I started building a team of people. All of a sudden attracting amazing clients. I got so lucky when my inner world and my personal relationships were in a good place. It was weird. I can't say there's a logical written plan how to do this, but I've seen this happen with so many agents that I've worked with is that you work on the personal life and you get lucky. And I don't understand how that works. It's like these random deals just start coming in. It's like an invisible block that gets moved. This is just my experience. Have you guys had any experience where maybe you're not aligned in a relationship? Maybe the relationship's got trouble, and have you worked like how maybe a story about how maybe that's affected your life and then the effects of maybe getting through that and what's your business look like after? Anyone want to jump in on that easy little question?
Well, I think, I guess I'll jump into that. I think that, it takes a lot in business, whether it's business or personal life. I think it's just things that we're not taught through our, structured education system on how to get to know yourself as a person. So, and how to kind of really be the best version of yourself. So until you can start kind of bringing that version of yourself forth, it's really hard to kind of maintain these external relationships if you don't have a good one with yourself.
So do you have anything specific, like an example, something tangible that someone might relate to in regards to like maybe, like relationship with yourself, relationship with others, and misalignment and how that's affected your life and business?
Well, kind of similar to what you said is that, if you're not aligned with yourself, then it's, the relationships outside of you, whether that's with friends or family or a spouse, they're going to be hard to keep in alignment as well. And that's going to directly translate, we're in the people business. So if your energy's off and, you're feeling frustrated or down, that's going to show every single time on the clients and the people that you're working with, and even the types of people that you're attracting into your business.
For sure. Mary, or Jen, you got something to say about this too?
Yeah, well, and I think, for myself and, through conversations too, it wasn't directly just one person in my family. It was kind of everybody. And to be honest, in the beginning, for me, it was kind of looking towards them, like they were being grumpy or they were being edgy. And it took a little bit to kind of actually turn it around and acknowledge and have the self-awareness that I was probably actually a big trigger of a lot of it. And my 10-year-old son, I call him my old soul. He would start to ask, he'd be like, Mom, are you doing something for work right now? I'd say, yeah, why? He's like, because you're really grumpy. And it would be if I was working on something that was stressful. And so once I kind of got that awareness, and as you kind of work through things and create boundaries and make changes, I did become very aware of myself, and I could feel it, like just in my tummy. I could feel it when something was starting to bubble. And then I knew like my stress level was going up. I was going to be edgy. And now I know with more so my kids, because my husband's out of town. So I'm around my kids obviously a lot more. where I now will just pause and say, you know what? I need 5 minutes. So instead of being the angry, yelling mom over nothing, I just take the 5 minutes, go away and come back. And so, you know, just speaking to that self-awareness and paying attention to it, and how that impacted my house, and the change in, you know, just even the last 6 months has been absolutely crazy.
So what's it look like now?
Well, I'm definitely not perfect. I still, you know, have moments
I wouldn't
for
believe you.
human.
So let me
What's
just
that?
ask you this. You know what? I said I wouldn't believe you if you said you're perfect. You know what, Jen, can I share about how, like, a little bit about our coaching, about what we went to? So you're like, oh crap, don't worry, I won't throw you under the bus here.
Sure.
You know what, when I met you, Jen, I remember sitting talking to you, and it was almost like I would talk to you and you'd go instantly into beating yourself up. It was like this constant, like, we literally couldn't talk about real estate strategies, coachings for probably 5 or 6 sessions, because we had to, like, it was almost like you just had this internal game that was just like anything that came out of you was negative toward you. You're probably really nice to talk to and everyone else, but I think that's what your kids were feeling too. Can you speak to that experience? Like, when I was pointing out, like, I think you're a real bully to yourself, and I'm like, and you were like low on sales, you're not happy with home, the kids are frustrating, and I don't know how we slip into that over time, but it was almost like that had to be talked about before you could even pop like you are right now. So yeah. Anyways, yeah, go for it. Talk around that.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. And to be honest, like, you know, you said earlier in the call that you might not even remember. And honestly, it's kind of like that a little bit for me now, where I look back to that and there's a lot of stuff I can't really remember necessarily, but it almost felt like Groundhog Day, where it was just kind of like the same day over and over, and you get stuck in this rut. And yeah, for myself, I wasn't happy with myself. I wasn't happy with the way things were going. I was used to always being, you know, very successful in the things that I had done, because I had a career before I did this. And I had a good couple of years when I first started. And then all of a sudden, last year was a tough one. And I internalized all of it, and I took all of it personal, and couldn't get past that. And I think it was, you know, just having someone external like yourself kind of poking some holes and creating some other perspective to help me kind of open the blinds a little bit and step back, and also, you know, just to step up and start making some changes. And it was crazy how fast that turned around.
Yeah, like you switched brokerages. We started looking at where you misaligned, right? I don't care where you're at brokerage wise, but it was amazing to how it just kind of got into, like, you were trying to make them happy, and like the internal battle, right? Of just like, well, I'm there already, I don't want to make anyone upset. We talked about honest conversations, and you changed you're maybe misaligned there, and having that shift. And then also, man, I had to tell you to be gentle on yourself constantly. And then I remember talking about your real estate business. And then you would always give me why it doesn't work, or like, well, you know, it's, you know, and it was almost like this constant pattern. So we'll come back to you, Jen. I think that's like, you've got some amazing transformation. The reason why you can't remember, because I think that's when transformation happened. Like, that's why having, if you go back to our recorded coaching calls, go back to one of the first ones and just watch who you are. It's amazing to do that, because we forget, once you have transformation, you literally morph into, like, from a caterpillar to a butterfly. You forget what it's like to be a caterpillar. I was talking to you, Justin, when I first started coaching you, versus now you're like, I don't know, you know, I haven't hit the highest success marks. I don't know, being on the podcast. I'm like, dude, success is not just measured by commissions. That's what real estate companies want you to do. You know what I mean? It measures on internal happiness, measures on being aligned, waking up in the morning and loving living.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that transformation that you went through as well, where there was a few different things that were misaligned, and we just lived like that. You know what I mean? Do you remember those days?
Absolutely.
So Mary, I think you got something to say on this as well, on relationships affecting your business.
Yeah, of course. So when I began my real estate career 7 years ago, and I also began coaching with Ben in that same year, so 7 years ago, and I was
Wow.
in a very toxic marriage and a very emotionally abusive marriage, and that just was consuming so much of my time, so much of my energy. It's it's hard to even think how I accomplished anything else in my life. And I was still parenting. I was working. I was still managing two careers, but my energy was probably non-existent. My happiness was certainly non-existent, and my self-worth, again, probably negative, just not there at all. And I measured my success and my worth all in terms of this marriage,
Wow.
and that really really killed me in so many areas of my life. And talking about that alignment, well, that was something that I knew wasn't aligned and that I knew wasn't healthy, but I couldn't bring myself to. I just don't even think I had the energy to muster up to actually leave and fight the battle that would take. Um, so of course I didn't have any energy to invest in the rest of my life. And that's a person, yeah, I hardly even remember that person anymore, despite how
Crazy.
significant that
So
was.
just
It's like,
just for the sake of people, my perspective on
yeah,
Mary was I almost didn't take you into our group, into our 1 year program. And I even talked to my wife. I'm like, I don't know about this Mary girl, but I like her so much because she was raw and honest and like swore all the time. And there's something about you that I felt like there was some magic in you. And I was like, because you were like, nope, I'm not doing that. It's like, okay. Like, I didn't know if I could get to you. And it was funny because it's happened to me a few times where I'm like, I don't know if I can coach this
yeah,
person. And they turn out to be the most transformation, to be honest. And yeah,
yeah,
it was always like, I'm like, hey, well, yeah, I don't know for you. I'm like, holy shit. Like it was constant, like never attacking me personally, but it was just like, it was almost like this, stay the fuck away. Like it had
yeah.
this like
Well,
feeling of like I'm married. Try to move me. Like and that is now you're like some princess who likes unicorns and things like that. So it's like
yeah.
you're totally different. But so again, it was misalignment in a relationship, right?
I don't know if you can read that.
Yeah, there
Oh,
you
it
go. It's
so
a
was.
picture
Yeah.
picture of a unicorn on her mug.
It
So
so was misalignment, and I think that part of me that I mean, I still get that way sometimes, that Mary, but
no, but that's okay. That's
it was
personality. That's who
protecting
you
what
are.
energy I had left. I
It's
just don't
different
think that.
energy.
Yeah, yeah,
100%.
for sure.
So
Yeah, no.
so you said something interesting, and I wouldn't mind if anyone else wanted to jump in. You said you measured your self-worth according to that relationship.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
can you
I did.
like what does
It,
that mean?
so I really felt like I would be a failure. I guess I got married really young because I really wanted this dream, where you're married for 70 years, you have a long marriage. I got married at
Mm,
19, and that's what I wanted. So the fact that I knew the problems in my marriage weren't things I could solve and weren't things I was at fault for, but the fact that I couldn't, almost like I wasn't enough for him to be a better person. I wasn't enough to make him change. I wasn't enough to make him love me the way that I loved him. So, in some degree, I must have failed here, and that people will view me as a failure for leaving. And I truly felt that even at that young of an age, as I said, I got married at 19. I was worried that will anybody want to ever be with me again? After I'm divorced, even though, you're young, you're successful in your career,
and
you're
that's the
all these
result.
other things.
And you're saying that's the result of putting self value in something external, right? And that's where
Yes,
the
100%.
chaos happens if
Yeah.
that breaks down. So anyone else, how do we measure our self-worth? It's a weird question. It might be pretty deep. What do you think, Colin?
I don't know. I think in my life, I've compared myself to a lot of like role models and people that are around me. And sometimes my self worth can get down because,
Hmm.
well, my roommate, my cousin I live with is a very successful entrepreneur. And,
Yeah.
it's like, he's like really, really high up there. So comparing that sometimes you're just like, oh my God, like that's so far away.
Mm,
I'm not good. I'm not that great. But it's like, you're looking at somebody else that's like 1 in a billion kind of thing doing what he's doing. So I find that like a lot of times I externally compare myself to other people, and it could bring down my self-worth. But then I kind of got to look inside, and I look more of like how I've come, like where I was last year to where I am today, to where I'm going to be next week, to things like that. And then it really helps me realize, okay, yeah, like the ball's rolling, like things are moving. It might not be moving the same way somebody else is in the same direction, but it's moving for me for sure.
That's really cool, man. That's like hits me, man. That's really cool. Justin, what do you think? How do you measure your self-worth?
I think that's different for everybody, right? It's kind of like, what is success to you, really? So
that's why we're asking you. What is yours? You're an intuitional thinker. It's hilarious understanding personalities. We both know this because intuitional communicators communicate around the topic, and and then the sensing personality type goes directly at the topic. Anyways, we've all talked about this kind of stuff, but yeah, me and Justin love the personality stuff. But yeah, you're doing that. You're going around it. So how do you measure self-worth in your today? Like things change, Justin. Like
yeah, for sure. I would say really kind of for me right now would be my level of internal peace, to be honest. Just satisfaction with where you're at, and forgiving yourself for not being where you think you should be.
So letting yourself off the hook will lead to maybe a little more self-worth. Is that, or?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's beautiful. Jen?
I
think this is such an interesting topic, right? We hear it all the time. Lots of Instagram memes, like love yourself and all this. But like when you actually look at the practical side of it, the effect on your business, your life, your like 10 years go by and it's gone. Like we need to talk about this if we're going to enjoy the 100 years we got on this planet, so how do you measure your self-worth, Jen?
Yeah, for sure. And, I don't know if I fully thought of it, previously, but now honestly, it's very similar to what Colin said. It's just comparing myself to who I was yesterday and, getting rid of that judgment. You have a bad day, then whatever, you pick yourself up and you start again tomorrow. And what I've really learned too, and this is where, I think it's been almost magical, is again with my kids, where I see them, my 10-year-old, where he now is the same way, right? Like he was just going through some pretty, for him, intense like hockey evaluation stuff for this team that he really wants to play on. And, it may or may not happen. And one tryout he was, really sad after. And then last night he was like, Mom, it's like, what I thought of the whole time? And I was like, oh, what's that? He's like, Paw Patrol. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, you just do your best and you forget the rest. I'm like, wow. Yes, that's right. But that's kind of the technology and how we are talking now. And we're just so open with it. And you know what? You make a mistake. Honestly, I had one of the biggest blonde moments yesterday possible. I'm not going to tell you it, but it's one where he's like,
I want to know. None of this. I'm not going to tell you. I want to know exactly what this blonde moment was. You can't just be like, I know something and I'm not going to tell you. Just,
Yeah, I'll go put it on my Facebook status. Oh my God, it's so embarrassing. And I'm going to
it's probably not. What do you got?
Oh no, it's bad. My daughter's been sick all week, so I'm going to say that's part of it. And I have a sinus cold. So my son is playing spring hockey. I don't know them all that well because it's only been like a month and a half in, but we see them every weekend.
Yeah.
And so we're standing there after the practice and I'm chit-chatting with one of the dads or this evaluation. And he asked about, oh, well, did your son try out for this other team? And I was like, oh, no, he didn't. We decided to go with this blank team. And I'm standing there looking at him and I'm like, that's right, because we're on the same team. Like,
that's not
like,
bad.
Oh, that's bad.
That's not like, bad. You can see the shit I do. Bad. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's bad for you. Like, so the world came crashing down. You.
You know what's funny though? What? Like 6 months ago, that would have eaten me up. Like honestly, like to the point where I probably would have felt like throwing up. My son is mortified but laughing, and I just said, I was like, you know what, bud? I'm like, I can't change it. It is what it is. I apologized. I laughed.
You know what? That's really cool, Jen. It's funny, the littlest things, right? From the external looking in, like, oh, that's not a big deal, but internally, it's massive. And so I think that's really, really cool to realize that, right? People go through those things and we all have that, like, oh man, why did I do that in that conversation? And, You know what I mean? Like, it just, everyone has that. It's about how fast can you let that go?
Yeah.
That really, that's where you're.
And I think it comes down to what was your intent, right? My intent wasn't bad. It was just I had a really bad goof and it's done.
So let's talk about something else. Blind spots. Okay. Blind spots have been something that I've realized in people, myself. It's kind of like the opposite of personal growth. Personal growth really shines an honest look at who you are, and then it challenges you to be yourself. That's really what it is. And you know, have the peace of mind and be happy with who you are. Like, personal growth gives you that. But have you guys ever ran into blind spots in your business, in your life, that later you saw it and you're like, holy crap? Does anyone run into something like that?
Yeah,
Colin,
I got one.
Go for
it. You'll remember this story. We're sitting in the office one day, and I think it goes back to just communication. Like, there's a lot of times where meant to be like, yeah, you know what, like, I totally understand where you're coming from. I feel your pain. I get it. But I'm not letting them know that I understand them. So it's a blind spot of communication and showing that I understand, where some lady was going off and upset about this, upset about that. And I remember we had her on speakerphone. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And you're like,
she's getting madder and madder, though. I remember she's getting more mad, and you're solving every problem. So it was like, well, this has happened. You're like, done, solved. Well, this has happened. Done, solved. All done, solved. And you're doing what women would say, the guy thing. And you were solving all her problems. Like, no problem. You know what? The lawn wasn't mowed when I moved in. No problem. I'll mow it. Well, this wasn't happening. The windows, I'll do it. And it was just, she was getting pissed. Anyways, go on.
So I'm just sitting there being like, what am I doing wrong? Like, everything she wants done, I'm getting it done. And you're like, just tell her you understand. Just tell her you feel her pain. Like, you understand where she's coming from. You get the frustration. And it was kind of like that light bulb moment where I'm like, you know what? I totally understand where you're coming from. Like, that would piss me off too. And then she went from like a 10 down to like a 2. And it was like, holy crap. It's just that blind spot of like acknowledging, I totally get where you're coming from, not being like, oh, here's how to fix it. Because they don't want the solution. They just want to be heard.
That's like, yeah, here we go. All the girls, Jen and Mary, are like, oh, yes. Oh, yes. Colin Colin's learning how to have a relationship with women. So, Mary, why don't you speak to that? You were almost hurting your neck nodding on that one.
Oh, I don't know what to say. I guess that's just, I like his point that he made, though. That's very true. Like, validation is so important. But even from a female point of view, I think we've all been in that situation where we try to fix things that don't need to be fixed. They just need to be heard. And just leave it there. You know?
Oh my goodness. That's like, even I understand that from a logical mind. Like, I get the knowledge, but then putting it into practice, I still like, it's always with Renee and I, same kind of thing. It's like, Renee, and then she's just getting pissed at me. I'm like, I'm hearing you, and I'll repeat back. At the end of the day, I'm like, sometimes I'll stop, like, okay, just a quick question. You're asking me a lot of questions. Do you need any answers? No. I'm like, well, this is effed up. But I'll sit down and, like, what do you do? It just completely miswired. You know what I mean? It's like, just listen to them. But I could freaking get this done right now. You just want to tell me all your problems and then you're happy? Like, it just doesn't, like, and that's called hearing someone. It doesn't make sense all the time, right? Especially when you're a businessman and you're solving problems. That's what you do all day. And then it's no problem. I'll get that. Solving problems in business does not equate to solving problems at home. It doesn't work.
Not at all. No, and I think it's important too to realize, like, sometimes we get in arguments about these things, and really it comes across as we're fighting to be right or something like that, but we're just actually fighting to be heard. And that's
powerful statement. Powerful.
It's so simple. Just hear me.
Which forever I thought that I knew what that was. It's taken me years to get the being heard thing. Like, it's still something I practice on today. It's weird. It's harder than people think. Like, I am hearing you. How many fights are going on in relationships like that? And how many the clients won't tell you that, though. They'll just leave you. They'll say, it doesn't get me.
True.
So let's, I know we're kind of peppering through a few different topics here, but I think that's going to be easy listening. And I just want to talk about fear and anxiety. fear and anxiety. It's a monster of a topic. Okay. We could have 10 shows on that. Literally a podcast on fear and anxiety. Can you guys at all talk to the point about fear and anxiety, how it's affected your life, maybe a relationship you have with fear and anxiety? It doesn't actually have to be wrapped in a bow. I'm thinking there's a relatability out there. People feel very alone today, especially agents. And it's pretty neat to see people have a real conversation on the real shit. I think people are going to love this show for that. If you guys could share a little bit on fear and anxiety, related to your life, your business, just whatever you feel in your gut.
Yeah, I can definitely speak to fear and anxiety. So I had I think that was one of the reasons I stayed in my marriage as long as I did, was the fear of leaving that. And, like I said earlier, it just ate so much of my energy and took the magic right out of my life. And then even after I chose to leave that relationship and deal with some of the fear and anxiety around that, I still sort of had some fear and anxiety around showing the world my real self and being authentic to the core. And for me, that at that point, that was a single mom, that was, juggling this, doing the mom juggle, like Jen said, having my kids, but the more you step into that and lean into that fear and just go to that place, the more magical life became, and sort of working through that. And for me, it was the fear, I guess, of just being real. There's the element of needing to please people or give people what you think they want. And that if I was still living that way, I would probably still be consumed with fear and anxiety.
It's
But
interesting.
instead,
A couple things that you said were fear and anxiety kept you in your misaligned relationship. I just wonder about the pattern I just kind of saw. Fear and anxiety, could it equal being stuck?
Absolutely.
Interesting. Hey, so could we look at where we're stuck in life and break it back down to fear and anxiety? And I just know that fear always equals control. Okay. So if you find someone controlling, you'll see fear. It's just after working with so many people, if someone's a controller, I don't deal with their control issues. I deal with their fear and anxiety and the relationship they have with themselves that way. So it's really cool that you just said that, just kind of connecting the dots here. Fear and anxiety, you got stuck. So it's really interesting. So if you're getting unstuck, you might have to look at fear and anxiety and where you're trying to control everything. And like staying in the relationship was the way you controlled things. But because of the fear and anxiety, you didn't bloom, you didn't fly. So I gotta, so
Right.
Justin, what do you think about fear and anxiety in relation to your specific life?
I think I can relate to Mary on that one in a sense of just the sheer control fear can have over your life when you're living from that base emotion of fear, and you're basing every decision on that, and just how much it can hold you back. She talks very much about, coming out of that relationship and being afraid to show who she was. But I think a lot of the time when you're stuck in these relationships is that when you get out of it, you have to kind of go through a rediscovery of yourself to even figure out who that is before you want to put that out there, because you take on so many things while you're within these unhealthy relationships, right? That just aren't you.
So Justin, I've had the privilege of working very closely with you it's different when someone works with someone for a month or so, like an entire year. Like we run into like the highs and the lows. You really get to know someone when you fight me and I got to fight you back. And then it's like, like there's the whole process. And can I share a little bit about where you used to work and being stuck there a little bit?
Yeah.
So what was it, Toyota or Honda?
Honda.
Okay. So you were working in the factory at Honda?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Justin hired me as a coach, and he was trying to start his real estate career and work full time at a factory. So it's almost an impossibility to get traction while you're working. It's very difficult, but he was very committed. And the thing is though, after a few months, it was like every time we talked, he goes, I'm going to be quitting here as soon as I got enough money, and I never really went into, my gut was tingling. And I'm like, how much money does this guy actually have? Like how much is it going to cost for you to leave? And we started breaking down some facts, because the story we start telling ourselves reinforces the fear and anxiety to remain stuck. And so that's why a lot of people don't want to get real, because their story gets exposed and people might just go, well, that doesn't look right. That's not true. And so that's what I did with Justin. I said, well, why don't you quit your job? Like, what do you really need? What are your expenses? And it was very difficult conversation. We're talking, do you remember that, Justin?
Of course.
So why don't you give your perspective on that? I think that'd be cool to hear your story on how, and I'm curious to see how you see it now years later.
Well, it's, I think it was early spring of maybe 2017. And my goal was to quit by January of the next year. And you were like, well, hold on a minute. And we figured out what it would be for 3-4 months expenses, and how, if I really needed it, I had that safety net already, and
which was a line of credit, a big fat line of credit if you needed it. And you're like, I need like 6 to 8 months. And then it was like, and this and that. And then it's like these weird years, like, oh, in 5 years, as soon as I hear a long date, I'm calling BS. Because it's like, oh, January, I'm quitting. I'm like, it sounds like an old story to me. Like, it didn't sound like a real plan. It sounded like an old story. I had to find the truth in it, right?
Yeah. And the funny thing is like, that's, the unknown is kind of, where the magic happens is when you kind of take that leap and you have no other choice but to survive. And then that's all of a sudden when it starts coming together, right? So
for sure.
I mean, if you want it to.
Yeah, for sure. We get ourselves in the way, right? I just remember you finally pulled the trigger, because we looked at it and we're like, you got enough money for like 4 months. Can you? And then you showed me your expenses. I'm like, that's it? That's all you need to make? It was like, dude, you could sell like 2 deals. All you need is 2 deals in like 4 months, and you would have been like survivable. And I'm like, dude, you are sitting in such a good position. Like, people jump with no money and they have to pull it off. And it was so cool to see that transformation. But what happened, Justin, when you made that shift, how many other things shifted? It was everything, relationship, brokerage, like your locations. Like, it was amazing how that one thing was kind of the cork that let loose. You know what I mean? It was cool to tackle one thing, because then it starts unraveling. Yeah. Can you speak to that a little bit? I think people can learn a lot from that.
Well, and you realize, so it was actually after I had finally quit that job, and then that relationship that I was in at the time ended with 0 money coming in the pipeline. So that was, again, like a very awakening moment of, okay, but it was, things that needed to happen. And you really just are able to source exactly how far into every aspect of your life that fear is holding on to you, and kind of how to grow through that.
It's like you let go. And then it's almost like you're holding onto this thing like a life grip, just with white knuckles. And you don't realize there's a lot of other things you're holding on to. You just start letting go of the one where you literally say, I'm going to make a transformational move here. And we looked at it smartly too. It wasn't foolishness, but it was like, and you just choose to let go. But by letting go, you let go of a few other things that you were holding on to. It was like this death grip on everything was tied into one. That's why it's really cool when I work with people. If I can help them let go of the simplest thing, other things start letting go. Like, a lot of times people will work and go after the big suckers, go after, like, sometimes just a shift in letting go of a little bit, like just let it go of something is a really neat thing, because a lot of times it starts unraveling and you start seeing where all that gets tied to. I'm super proud of you, Justin. Like, I think back, like, I just wish that we could walk through that and just look at it like a fly in the wall, because that took such courage. It was something, and I know you, and it's like, you're planned out, man. You got your plan. You stick with your plan. And I'm like, so I communicated in the language of your planning. I'm like, okay, let's plan this, but let's change this plan. So we couldn't change everything. We need to change the plan first. And then we started working, and it's like, you took those steps. Crazy proud of you, man. Like, it's like, I look back at you, I'm super proud. And this is why working with real estate agents, it's not about like, hey, so were you number 1 in your office yet? Yeah. The guys that are like, those guys sometimes are the most unhappy people. I'm not saying they all are, okay? But if that's your singular goal, it's totally a waste of a life. I'm telling you, once you get to number 1, then what? You got to defend it. That's your life.
Yeah.
That's your life. That's why it's like, when you came on the show, you're like, well, I don't know, I haven't hit too many big high numbers. I'm like, holy shit, man, you've hit such depth in your relationship, such depth with yourself, your awareness level. You're like, there's so many things that equate to you having peace of mind and happy. I get it, man. You probably still beat yourself up. You're probably still I get that. But the guy that I met years ago to now, it's amazing. And sometimes I'm on this now because you need to be reminded of that. And that's really important.
Well, I think the chord that initially struck me with you is I had hit that point in my life of constantly just chasing the money, like much like you had, and you kind of looked around at your life and realized that all of your relationships were dissolving and realized you needed to change. So
when relationships mean something, like
mm-hmm.
literally, like if that's where you're, like you have to make a change, you'll end up rich and lonely,
Mm-hmm.
or broke and lonely, one of the two. So Colin, I want to jump to you. We've had great conversations on this, and you share whatever you want to share. But when it comes to fear and anxiety, you know, like you're living the life, dude. You're traveling the world. You're probably, in relation to like expenses versus income, you're probably better off than most of society for actually how much money you keep in your pocket versus how much goes out. So sometimes we always look at how much people make versus the expenses versus the how much money you bring in. Like you're sitting pretty. Why would you have fear and anxiety? You're doing good, man. You're going to Burning Man. You're having this great life. Like fear and anxiety must not be an issue at all, right? You're living free, right?
Yeah, it was actually just as we're talking with, I kind of remember when it first started. It was around September last year. I remember I still to this day, I don't even know if it was a for sure panic attack, but I'm doing this CMA. Had just run up a bunch of flight of stairs, down a flight of stairs, like a 3-story home, and we sit down. And I start talking, and then like the room starts spinning, and like I start seeing like these flickering, and like the lady asked me, she's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I don't think so." And I'm like at the point where I'm almost like passing out, fainting, and she gets me some water, fine, whatever. Then I had something like a week later, kind of the same thing while I'm working. So then I Googled it, and lo and behold, I find out these are panic attacks. So I started getting so scared of having these again that I just went into like complete anxiety. I was almost avoiding situations where that all the talking would be on me, where someone would be looking at me or someone would be paying attention to solely me, because I was scared I was going to have that. And I remember there was times like I'd be sitting like in Costco, like in the lineup at the checkout, being like, "Oh my God, am I going to have a panic attack here?" And those kind of things just started freaking me out to the point where like I was getting such bad anxiety. Like if I had a CMA to do on a Saturday, I wasn't sleeping that Friday night. Like I was up all night freaking out, being like, "How am I going to do this? What's going to happen?" Like I got so into my head about freaking out about this happening again that it started controlling my life. Like it went to the point where I'm like, I was even talking to you. I'm like, I don't know if I can do the CMA today. I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah.
I was probably avoiding so many things in my life that I could have had opportunities at because I was scared of this happening again. And then it went way beyond that point of like not even worrying about having the panic attacks to just anxiety in general, just scared to do daily life things. Like even like going to the grocery store, that was kind of like, "Oh my God, am I going to see somebody I know? And then it's going to be weird." And yeah, it was like, it's a crippling feeling to the point where you get so stuck in your own head and you're fearing everything. And like I'm thinking back, like, what the hell's going on here? Like 2 months ago, like I could stand up in front of 100 people and make everybody laugh and not blink an eye or have one goosebump of nervousness. And then here I am, like in a crippling state where I just didn't know what to do. But it's actually funny because I went on this trip to Costa Rica. I just was like, "Okay, I need to get away." Work was really busy, whatnot. And I remember like laying in bed the night before. It's like 2 a.m. My flight leaves at 6 a.m. And I'm like, I don't think I can go. I don't think I can go to the airport. I don't think I'm gonna be able to make it through security. Like everything was so scared. And it's funny, once I got in the airport, on the plane out of here, it just like, it started slowly, like it was like an egg breaking open. It just like came away from me.
Wow.
And then after 2 weeks of being gone, I came back and I remember talking to him like, yeah, like I really can't explain it, but it's gone now. Because I literally put myself in a situation in a foreign country all by myself. Like I didn't know anybody there. I was meeting random people, having drinks with them at a pool.
Yeah, just for context, you usually take trips with your buddies, and this time you went on your own for most of the trip.
Yeah, but I've done like trips on my own before, but not in a long time. So this is kind of like,
so you've had a shift. You've had a shift, Colin?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and what were some of the things that you think that might have shifted you to loosen these the fear and anxiety stuff going on?
I think just some time to get away from things that were scaring me constantly or things that I was constantly fearing. Like maybe I really can't pinpoint exactly what it was. Was it society telling me to be somebody I didn't want to be? Was it scared of running into somebody? Was it scared of having a panic attack? I think it was a combination of everything. But once I broke out of it, like I'm still to this day trying to think back, because like whenever something happens in my life, I want to analyze. Like, okay, how did that happen? Why did it happen? How can I prevent it from happening again? Type thing. And it's been like a month or two now, no anxiety, no fear, no nothing, but I'm still trying to pinpoint exactly what it was.
It's cool to be talking mid-journey. We always talk like these big, like it's cool, man. And I'm glad that I get to be in your life that way too. Like it's to try to, just be there for you too. Like it's my heart. Like I love you guys, and it's so cool to see that mid-journey. It's just where it's at. But a couple of things you said was that again, tying the fear and anxiety. First, I thought stuck was one word that came up. The other word was avoiding. Very interesting what you just said. You said I was avoiding. So I just love to see I like to channel all the connections down, and I learn about people. And I'm just learning right now, fear and anxiety. And the word you said was avoiding. Like I'd avoid. So it's really interesting. If you have a behavior of avoiding all the time, where's that fear and anxiety? Because you're trying to control an environment. So control equals fear and anxiety. Just interesting to track that back. It's really, really interesting. Thanks for sharing that, Colin. That's not like everyone in the world just goes, hey, let me tell you about my panic attacks. But what's interesting, Colin, is no one knows what's going on with people. Yeah. Like you meet people, you don't know what's going on. Like there's going to be someone listening to this going, Colin, for real? You're so confident. That's what's so powerful about people listening to this right now. Because then they're going to go, yeah, I wrestle with it too. It's like, and as soon as it comes out in the open, it actually starts healing. That's one thing I do know for sure.
100%. Like if you had asked me that question 2 months ago, I might have slammed my laptop and ran away. So yeah, that's definitely in a different place now where I can talk about it, and
it's amazing, man.
We'll joke about it now because I've been there and I know what it's like. So I can really relate to other people who are in that situation now too. And that was kind of one of the coolest things. Like once I kind of came out of it, I'm like, I totally get what people are going through. Because I always you hear like anxiety, fear, all this stuff. I always kind of thought it was not bogus, but I was just like, is it really a real thing? But then after going through it, you're like, wow, like I know exactly what that's like. I can completely understand people who are in bad relationships, who never want to leave their house, who can't get a real job, who are stuck in their parents' basement for the rest of their life. Like I can understand those people now because it's a weight on your shoulders when you're going through that.
It's cool that you chose to take the trip. I feel like that's obviously the pivotal point of some kind of transformation that you're maybe midstream or maybe it's who knows what that is, but it's helped you. And I think about the programs that I've run. I always have a retreat at the end of the program for a reason. It's exactly why. And I've been doing that for 8 years with my mentor. I'd go away to these crazy locations 3 times a year just to get out of my head, to look at my life, to take the time to reflect. I have to say that's probably one of the most single-handed things that have helped me in my life, hands down. But a purposeful trip, not just like a party, a purposeful trip to self-explore, to check in, to change your environment. I'm telling you, like even Justin shifting from being working in a factory to being in a real estate, there's a change in an environment that happens. It's like it's a whole new perspective. Mary and Justin have been on my retreats. Mary was on my very first one, and Justin was on the second one, I think. Yeah. How did those retreats affect you guys? Thinking about how Colin's had some fear and anxiety loosen up from just going away. Have you guys? There might be something to it.
Oh yeah, there was. Well, I think the first thing I said to you when you asked me to be part of you invited me to be in your group was, I'll come, but I'm not going on the retreat. So
it was more like, but I'm not going on the retreat. I said, well, I guess I'll see what happens. I'm like, okay, it's kind of important, but okay. You scared me, so I wasn't going to do anything about it.
Yeah, and that was part of I think my low self-worth at the time was that I had my spending time with me or doing something just for me was not like something I could comprehend or was not part of my vocabulary. If it had to prioritize my children or my child at the time, otherwise it wasn't something I could consider. So I did end up bringing my child and bringing a babysitter
with a nanny, but you figured it out. It's cool.
I figured it out, and it was so powerful for me to be there, and the connections that I made there were really transformative ones. And that was, I would say, I almost feel like the work I did in this group was like the prep work for really
100%.
cracking Mary open, but I totally needed that primer. And then I was ready to be like, okay, there's still so much work to do here.
The retreat was like significant then. Yeah.
hugely significant. Yeah.
What about you, Justin? I really want to. I want to put that on the table because of because of what Colin said. Can we track it back to actually, like, how dare you go away for a week or for 3 days and leave your family and all your responsibilities and have fun? And like, it's like something. There's so much guilt and shame around going away for 3 days. All your relationships. Wow, your wife or husband. What are you doing? I never get to go. Like all of this, it's part of the process of finding your value is these trips. It's one of the hardest things. People have a hard time, but once they've experienced it, they're like, I'm a better husband. I'm a better friend. I'm a way better agent. Like, so that's what we're talking about there, Mary, how that happened. And Justin, so you went on the second one that we did. That was the end of our one.
And I almost didn't go on that one towards the end of it too.
What was your excuse? What was your excuse?
Well, that was kind of it was money.
It's always money.
Yeah. It was, well, in that, at that time, like the relationship that I was in had kind of dissolved, and I was just like,
100%
again. Yeah. But no, it was super valuable. A lot of the even just the connections that I made with some of your friends, and got introduced to Kelsey, which really opened up a whole new portal of self-exploration in the relationship world, and still follow her today. And
for sure,
yeah, just lots of really, kind of like Mary said, it was as much growth as there was through that 10-month process. It was really just starting to crack the shell of a huge exploration.
Yeah, and going away shifted. I remember I actually, it's funny because I actually forgot that the battle for you to come, like you're like giving all these reasons why you're not coming or something. And then it's funny at the end, I think there was like, holy shit, am I ever glad? Like, I think you actually had one of the most significant parts of that retreat. We had about 15 or something on that or something like that. And I remember it's funny, you forget, you forget. It was so significant. I remember that. That was so cool. So I think that changing your environment is a really interesting thing. So let's shift this back to real estate a little bit now, because I know there's a lot of real estate agents on this in like understanding how personal growth has affected us. I think everything comes back to relationship with yourself, relationship with your others, and relationship with your business. So what's your business look like right now? Can someone just maybe give me a little snapshot of the real estate business, what you guys are doing? Jen, we'll start with Jen.
Sure. So I don't really know exactly, the specifics you want to hear, but in terms of my business compared to last year, I surpassed last year in my first quarter. And that for me was huge. And I did that. I think, a lot of it was just kind of pulling it back to basics. What I also think is so important as a realtor is don't compare yourself to anybody else. It's so hard because as soon as you go on social media, that's all you see. You see what others are doing. And I know myself, for a while, it was such a time waster, but it was always, well, I should watch, because if they're doing that and they're so successful, then I should be doing that. So I'm going to try to do that. And then I wasted a whole day trying stuff and actually accomplished nothing and spent a lot of time wasting time. And so one of the biggest things now for me is, I hardly go on. I'll go on because I realize I need to have more of a presence. I'm more of a closed person. So I was never really good at it, but I do recognize in this business, you do need to do that, because that's how people get to know you without actually personally getting to know you. And, then I've also been implementing all the systems that you talk about, Ben. And I think, again, that really helps simplify and keeps you focused. Just pick a couple things, start implementing. And I only just did this week, but I did hire an assistant. Nice. And oh my God,
there you go.
Just right? We just had our first meeting on Monday. And for myself too, it's kind of double-sided, just because my husband and I self-manage our investment portfolio. So we've got almost 30 tenants, 20 properties. So all of that as well. So it's just like, the biggest word for me is overwhelming. I always feel overwhelmed. I always feel, you're trying to juggle, but there's always something going on, a vacancy, an issue, or whatever.
Always.
And it's a business, right? Yeah. So now I have this person who's going to be helping me with both.
I'm
And
telling
just,
you, it takes forever to someone hire. It's so funny. It's like takes forever. Look at his smile over there. Justin's smile. He's like, that's me. I've been telling Justin to hire an assistant forever. There's all those, well, I don't know. If we're working together, you're getting an assistant. That'd be the first thing we're working on because it unlocks income, it unlocks time. Your mental space is like 50% emptied. It's
yeah.
the price is so like imagine 3 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just say, can you like nobody can give me any money excuses at all because I'll look at let me look at your bank statement and let's calculate the lunches and the coffees. That's all. And you're probably $300 to $400 a month having a coffee every day and maybe some lunches. What if you cut that? What could you do with $300-$400 a month with an assistant? Well, you probably quadruple, if not 50x your business or the investment into that assistant because there's a lot of people looking for 2 hours a day. A lot of powerful people that are taking care of families and beautiful executives that don't need full time. They just want to do something and there's so many people looking for that extra $300 a month or $400 a month. People create such an objection. I'm so proud of you, Jen. You're about to experience something that you'll never, ever, ever go back to in your whole life is why the hell would you do some of this stuff that you were doing? You never will. Like even a birthday system. How many of you missed because you don't have an assistant? One missed of a $20 investment into a birthday system. Boom, you're not getting a referral. Well, there's $8,000. How much could $8,000 pay at $300 to $500 a month for an assistant? Drives me crazy. As you see, this is the number one thing because I see it. Justin, this is for you, brother.
And the irony was,
and you're like such a good manager. Like it just blows my mind. You're so good. You're so organized. And there's just the head and the letting go. Like hire someone for.
I set an appointment last week.
A month. Yeah, good. Hire a project based. Get into the system of hiring. So Jen, so you got someone, and mentally, how do you feel about it now?
oh my God. Like honestly, it was just like after our 3-hour get together, and I'm definitely like, I'm like that too, where it was, well, I can't do it yet because I don't understand exactly how it's going to work. And how does that impact taxes? And what is this? And all the details, right? And those were my excuses.
There you go. Self-awareness.
For not doing it.
Yeah.
I felt like it was me just trying to gather in information. And then it was also too, trying to figure out what to pass off. So that's obviously a control piece too. But honestly, after Monday, it was just like, like felt so freeing, like a huge weight off my shoulders. And the irony was she had, because I said, okay, we got to start with my contact list, birthday list. That's what we're starting with. Yeah. She's like, and I said, just shoot me a text like a week before someone's birthday. That night, she's like, Jen, it's so-and-so's birthday tomorrow. I'm like, oh, thank you.
So what's that worth? What's that reminder worth? Right? I know Adam on my team just went out and competed against a listing. He didn't know he was competing. He thought it was a past client, okay? He thought it was locked in. And so then I found out a guy that I know in relationship here in town calls me, goes, hey, looks like Adam beat me on this listing. I call Adam, and Adam goes, holy crap, I didn't know I was competing. But he goes, I kind of stayed in touch with him, but the birthday gift kept them in the loop. And then he ended up getting the listing, but that birthday gift wouldn't have gone out if we didn't have the systems in place. So that's going to be thousands of dollars that worth. It doesn't make sense, right? So anyways, super proud of you. So that's cool. Let's talk about some other guys. Where are you at with your businesses now? Colin, you're on my team, so you get the benefit of all the systems being done and you get to experience that. So what's your business looking like now?
Easy. I got to focus on just building relationships with clients as I go out there, doing open houses, do the money-making activities. And I mean, being a J personality, like I didn't mind the paperwork. I don't mind doing that kind of stuff. Like I love having a list of things to do and ripping through those and checking them off. So I kind of get a sick satisfaction from that sometimes. But at the same time too, when you're out showing 10, 15 houses a day, 7 days a week, doing open houses, it's nice to not have to worry about that kind of stuff because that's
even booking showings like the next day. How do you do that? Yeah,
exactly. And it's like you hit the nail on the head. Mind space. It opens up mind space where you can finally detach from work for a couple hours. You can get to bed 2 hours earlier, wake up sleep in an hour or two earlier, and not have to worry about that kind of stuff. So it just, like I said, makes the money making activities flow a lot smoother and don't have to worry about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. Mary, how's your business going? Being a mom and real estate wise, are you still working at that other job, Mary?
Well, not right now because I'm on maternity leave from it, but
Yeah.
no, I do still have another career as well. But for me, that almost is the balance that I love, because it really serves another part of my personality.
It's more of a passion job too, though. Like, just to be clear, it's not like
it's
flipping
a
burgers or
huge
something.
passion job.
Exactly.
It is.
So it gives you the ability to actually do that. So
it does. No, it does. So it keeps part of my fire alive in my heart, which is important for me. And it also, I must say, it has brought me a lot of clients through just people that I work with as well, and referrals that way. So I guess for me, the biggest thing for it right now is my business is 100% referral based. And in a time where I thought I wouldn't be doing a lot of work with having a new baby, like right from the time I was about 35 weeks pregnant up until now, it's been super steady, probably more work than I thought I would want at some points in time, doing home inspections when I was past my due date and, taking my 1 week old, 2 week old baby to showings with me. But that's something that I've also made a huge part of my business in stepping out of that fear and just being fully authentic. Is like, yeah, absolutely, I can represent you, but I have a nursing baby and she's coming with me. So if you're okay with that, then I'm okay with that.
I love that. Yeah, setting expectations, showing who you are. Embrace who you are. I love that. So do you feel like your business, and so your business or the real estate business, a lot of people take it as, let's make a shit ton of money and I'm going to be number one. There's those people. And then there's the, could I have this business serve the life that I really want? That's more my world, the more my coaching. It's like, let's try to build this business. But the question is, what the frick do you want? The problem is, if you don't know what you want, you're just going to try to hit the numbers that the brokerage encourages you to hit, or that someone tells you need to do, and you live by everyone else's standards. But this is part of the priming work to understanding how to build your business is, what the heck do you want? And so if you're a mom, that's got to be part of it. So you may not hit 1%, but you might have 20 or 15 sales a year that absolutely serve the life you live. That conversation is what I'm trying to bring to the world right now, because real estate is one of the best businesses for this. If run as a business, if you have the assistant and you have some systems in place, it can really serve what you want. The question is, what do you want? So anyways, that's kind of my, just get a little off on our tangent there, Mary, because I think about the life you're living, and no one's perfect. There's always ways. I'm not saying you have a perfect life, but what I am saying is that you're using real estate to serve you rather than you serve real estate. Would that be a accurate statement, Mary? I have a glitch.
Absolutely.
Here. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. It's 100% accurate. Yeah, no, it's absolutely, I've built the business that serves me, it serves my lifestyle. And if it's not serving me, then it's really not something I need in my life
like
anyway.
why?
So it's 100%. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Justin,
serving me, serving my kids.
Yeah, it's serving your family, 100%. That's why if real estate done right, it can actually serve the life that you want. The problem is people don't know what they want. So Justin, give me a snapshot of your business. What's going on in your business?
So this year is really kind of about refining. Last year, being my first year full time, I did pretty well. Considering I think I tripled my income from the year before.
How it's funny, hey? So without the job, tripled your income. That's kind of cool. It's just interesting when you go into it full time, right?
Yeah. Luckily, I think I was able to get, top agent for the office for the year, which was good. But I think kind of one of the things was basically just last year, like you said, there's a million ways you can do this business. And I think, being my first year full time, it was kind of sink or swim. So I, was running around in a lot of circles, doing anything and everything that I could to generate business and keep afloat. And, by the end of the year, I was kind of feeling a little burnt out, and I
100%.
kind of did some reflection and said, what's working for me? What do I enjoy doing? What's worth my energy, and what suits my personality? Because I had a big disconnect that I realized of it's kind of one of those old beliefs, feeling that you had to work super, super hard to make the money and that it couldn't be fun, when really there are a lot of fun parts to real estate. It's just, you have to figure out what suits your personality. Like, everything in this business works to generate business. It's just, who are you and what works for you to do that. So I'm really kind of refining this year to do the things that still bring enjoyment to me and not do the things that I hate.
Once you crack the assistant, to be honest, like, now I'm being honest, once you crack that, and I would go every chance I could, I'd try to hire someone on a project base to do one task for you, which is, I would first hire someone that help you, remind you to follow up. That's literally, she manages your list and helps you to follow up. It's 1 hour a day. That's the only person that could work for you right now, because you will be successful with that. We need your brain to say, holy shit, I can totally have an assistant, and all the excuses need to be, so we need to move you 1 inch toward that. So that's where I would say, for real, this is going to unlock everything for you, because all that running around and burning out is simply, that's a simple solution. Have someone that helps you. Because I know you're so freaking good at organizations and systems that you'll get lost in it, that you'll forget that actually the money-making activity is the asking, following up, and promising action steps and blowing the client's mind. So just one thing is, think about hiring someone just to manage your lists, which is past clients and future clients.
And that's all I've done is I've systematized my follow-up. So I've got that pretty good. So
but the thing is, though, that makes me a little nervous, because you've systemized it too much, that now all of a sudden the impact. So I would go back and refine the system versus going, how much of an impact does your impact blow their minds? Not just like, oh, that's a nice touch. Like, that's where you can up the game. But I do think an assistant can unlock it. So anyways, this isn't a coaching session, just my heart. Like, I'm like, man, you're so perfect for it once you kind of crack that code. And that's understand that I'd take a minor mini step toward it, not a big step. Like, one thing. Do one thing, hire them, spend $300 a month. They 1 hour a day, and they just start learning how to be a boss and learning how to let go, going, oh, this is at 80%, I'm killing it. You're at 100% efficiency, but you go to 80% and you'll make way more money. You'll just have to mentally let go a little bit. So just a little side thing. So guys, what I want to do is I want to wrap it up. I think that's a really good length of time for our episode. I think we've got such rich content here. Anyone else want to do any kind of closing words, like maybe advice for real estate agents, advice for some moms? Does anyone want to go around? Let's go around and give a 1 minute kind of like final closing remarks in regards to kind of what we talked about, whatever's on your head, actually. So let's start with Jen.
Sure. And it's kind of interesting, because I did have this happen after I made some of my changes, just through coffee chat with another realtor that I knew had only been in it for a few months and was ready to quit, and kind of was just like myself, right down, beating herself up. I'm not good at this. And so my biggest advice would be to just, be aware. If something's not working, if you're not having success, it does not mean that you are not meant to be a realtor. It does not mean that you are a bad realtor. It just might mean that where you are at that point in time isn't working for you. And I was even like that too, where I just was naive and didn't really realize there was other options available to me. So that would be my biggest advice. If it's not working, reach out to others, someone you feel comfortable with, or explore other options, have conversations, because you know what, I really think that most people probably could. They just have to find the team, the environment, the systems that work best for them.
Cool. Colin.
One thing, actually, I just noticed it today, and I was just reading on Forbes' website this morning that Instagram's apparently taking likes away from pictures now. I don't know what the reasoning behind that is. They say they want more interaction because people that have low amount of likes on their pictures aren't interacting on the system as much. But just to add on to that, I see so many like younger realtors, newer realtors that are struggling, spend so much time on social media, posting about this, posting about that. And yes, you need to have a presence on social media, but don't put all your eggs in one basket. Like it's good to be out there and do this and do that, but I see people that have like 5-minute long Instagram stories of them driving around talking to nobody. Hey, it's your boy here. Like, no, okay, cool. No one really cares that you're just driving to get coffee right now. It's stuff like that. Like you gotta have a presence, but I feel like people are like, oh my God, if I can create this reality on social media that I'm a good realtor, that I'm hustling, I'm killing it, I'm going to be a good realtor in real life. But I think that's the exact opposite from what I'm seeing right now. So have a presence, but don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Good advice, Colin. Justin.
Yeah, I would agree with that, for sure. I think one of the biggest things comes down to consistency, figuring out, like you said, make sure you're asking for business, figure out how you want to do that, and just set yourself up a schedule like it was a real job, and build some boundaries around your calendar of even scheduling things in for your personal time, because it's very easy to only focus on the work in this business. And you realize once you start factoring in your personal time back in and giving up a little bit of the work, you become more efficient and more consistent.
It's really good. Yeah, schedule in your personal time, or else you get lost in the business. And that's coming from a guy that flirted with a little burnout last year. So that's cool. That's cool. Mary?
I think my best advice to give you guys, or to give anybody, is to just follow your intuition and honor yourself in this business. Don't sell yourself out. Don't go out there to please other people or be who you think other people want you to be. Just be you, and you will attract clients and colleagues who are aligned. And just do what really truly honors you, whether that's with your brokerage or with your clients. But don't sell yourself out for anything, not for a dollar figure or for another person. This has to honor who you are.
Like, amazing way to shut down this. That was almost mic drop worthy. Mary, is beautiful. Anyways, thank you guys so much for being on here. Every single one of you, I have a deep place in my heart, emotionally connected. I'm so proud of every single one of you. I get the privilege of understanding your inner world stories. And my absolute hope is that people would watch this, that would be inspired to build a real estate business that serves their lives, to maybe look within, find a little more happiness. It's simply what it is. There's so much more important things than just learning the new technique in real estate. I'm super pumped that we get to showcase that today. So thank you so much, guys. And that's it.